It's always a good thing when the sun comes up, especially on a Saturday. So thank you very much. Welcome to everyone this nice Saturday afternoon. Whether you're in the UK or you're from outside the UK, we're excited to have you on our special event today, UK visas and immigration for today. We know that this is a big deal to a lot of people around the world. A lot of people in the UK are transitioning between one visa to the other. Some people are interested in relocating to the UK to work. People are interested in relocating to study. People are interested in relocating to join family. So there are a lot of reasons why people want to come to the UK. There are lots of reasons why people want to remain in the UK. I mean, personally, I came into the United Kingdom many, many years ago, and I came in as a student, and so as a church, that is based in Charlton in the southeast of London. We know that there are a lot of people in our community who are transitioning between one visa situation or the other, who have found themselves in an immigration context that they just need some help to navigate out of or to navigate through. And as a church, we felt that this is one thing that we can do for our community. This is one thing that we can do for friends, for family, is to put together an event like this, right, where we can actually talk about UK visas and immigration. Okay. And to add to the complication of what is UK visas and immigration, which can be already be complicated, is the fact that Brexit happened, right? 1st of January 2021. We kind of crossed over from the EU into non-EU status. And I think that has thrown even more complications into the Home Office. UKVI is pulling their hair out about how to manage all the new rules and all the new regulations that they themselves have introduced. Now, if the Home Office and the UK Visa and Immigration Office is trying to figure out what they've done, how much more everybody else who is trying to navigate the UK visas and immigration world, right? Now, if you're in the UK, right, you know how important UK visas and immigration is to employment. Now, I'm a senior HR professional in my day job, and this is something that I've been dealing with. In fact, the UKVI came to our offices just last week, right, to do an audit of all the people on visas, whether they are sponsored or non-sponsored, point-based systems, student visas, all kinds of things. They looked at everything, right? And they're going to give us a report to say how well we have done as an employer. And I can tell you that as an employer, we had to get solicitors to talk to etc. So if employers have to talk to solicitors, if individuals have to talk to solicitors, you can imagine that it's quite a complex field. So as a church, we're saying we need everyone to come together in an event like this. And we've got a seasoned immigration solicitor, Pastor Wale Adebayo, who is a trained solicitor. He's in the house, and he's going to be taking us through the different visa and immigration routes. Whether you're in the UK or you're somebody who is looking to relocate to the UK, I can assure you that this session is for you and will make a difference for you. So we're streaming it on our YouTube channel, like Taiwo was saying earlier. And so even if, you miss some parts of the session today, you can go to Kingswood London on YouTube and you can watch this session. And I want to say that, Mr. Wale Adebayo is not just going to be talking through visas and immigration for today. He will share his details so that if you need an immigration expert to kind of help you with your transition to the United Kingdom, right? Then definitely he is somebody that I'm recommending. All right. Please remember to put your microphones on mute when you come into the seminar, or to keep them on mute throughout the seminar. So we're definitely recommending his services. I have personally referred several people to him. I've asked him questions on the fly, and he's been very, very happy to answer questions. And so when I thought, let's do an immigration seminar for people in the UK or outside the UK, there was no better person for me to think of than for him. And he has helped people that I know to kind of navigate these different visa situations that they may have. So I'm so excited that we can have him in the house today. And I know that, everyone that is here is definitely going to take a lot more from this session. Taiwo, what was your own visa journey like? What kind of happened? What's your story? What's the story of people around you? Did you come in on a red passport, or did you have to walk to get a red passport? This is a church, so sometimes we talk Bible here. I remember that in the Bible, somebody told Paul that, Paul said, I'm a Roman. And the man said, oh, how did you get your Roman citizenship? Paul said, I was born a Roman. The man said, it cost me 10,000 denarii to get my own citizenship. I know what the man is saying. I feel his pains. So there is a process to getting these things. Tyler, what was your story like?
I came on a boat.
You came on a boat.
I went to Turkey.
As a refugee.
And
It's
then I
not
went to
funny.
France. I landed in France, and then I came to the UK. No, I came on a first class flight of British Airways.
All right.
You know how I wrote Pastor Amy?
Not on a boat. It's so funny. Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. So people have come through different ways. Like I said, I came in as a student. I worked through post-study work visa that the UK has now reinstalled or reinstated. Moved to tier 1, moved to indefinite leave, moved to British passport. I can say that for a lot of people, I like to crack the joke that my passport is like my first house, right? By the time I got my passport, I knew I'd built my house. That's my first house. Now, we can think about other things. But you know what? We're not the experts, right? We can talk immigration law. We can talk about our experiences. We can talk employment law in relation to visas and immigration. That's the kind of thing I can talk about. But we've got somebody here who's going to talk us through visas and immigration for today. And he is going to have an opportunity to answer your questions, right? So please, if you have questions from anything he's saying, just take them down. When he's through with the seminar, we're going to take, a short minute to just talk through some of the things he said, and then he's going to answer questions. So please, if you've got any burning questions, it's for today. Taiwo will kind of anchor that session and tell you how you can ask your questions. But please, let's put our hands together and give a warm welcome to our immigration solicitor today. He's a pastor of a church in the United Kingdom, so he knows what people are dealing with as a pastor when it comes to immigration. But beyond that, or in addition to that, he's an expert in this field as an immigration solicitor. He's not just saying things because he has seen people do it. This is something he studied, and this is something that he's recognized for professionally, right? It's not just, as we used to say, where I come from, them say. This is what he has learned at school, and he has learned through the legal practice. So please give a warm welcome to our solicitor today, Wale Adeboye, as he take us through the seminar for today. Thank you so much, Mr. Wale. Good to have you around.
Thank you, Pastor Amy, and thank you, Taiwo, for the moderation. Pastor Amy, it was interesting what you said about your journey, because we all have stories, of how we emigrated. And like you said, I'm a bivocational minister, and of course, I'm a qualified solicitor with a current practicing certificate. So I emphasize the word current. And
that's very important.
Yes, and when we look to the Bible, we see the Lord Jesus at some point in his life, he had to run away, as it were, with his parents for his life. He was practically an asylum seeker in Egypt. And so when we talk about immigration today, our high priest, Jesus Christ, he can easily be touched by the feelings of our infirmity. So I just want to encourage everyone as we explore both the law. I leave the other side to Pastor Emmy, which is the spiritual side, where the Lord would lead, he will guide. But just to let you know that the Lord is interested in your affairs, particularly your immigration circumstances and situation. Just a little word about myself. I qualified as a solicitor in the year 2000, October 2000. So October this year should make it how many years for me? Maybe going 21 years now. I'm dual qualified. I qualified first in Nigeria, and then I requalified here in the United Kingdom as a solicitor. My journey is slightly different from Pastor Emmy's journey, and certainly different from Taiwo's journey, who just, first class on the plane, So I happen to be one of those guys who got married to someone who was born here. So you can say I've had it easy, and it's been a journey, but, married 2 years, then indefinite leave, then British passport, And I remember the day I got my indefinite leave, I actually went in person to the Home Office because I needed to be sure. I couldn't trust those guys. I was not going to post my application. And so my wife was with me on that particular day. And when they granted the application, I decided to, just, have some fun. I said to her, it's been good knowing you. I've got this stuff in my hand now. She said, if I ask for fire and thunder, I said, please calm down. It's only a joke. So guys, let's just look through what immigration looks like in the UK today. What I will try to do is to run through all the various routes available today for people to be able to come to the UK to live, to work, or to study. Those are the three basic things. Some people just want to be able to live here and of course live here indefinitely. Some people want to be able to come and study with a view to settlement. Some want to study and go back. Some just want to work, because some people have worked in several countries. They see it as something they love to do. So we'll look at the various routes that a person can take to be able to come and live, work, or study in the United Kingdom. I hope you can all hear me very well. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's look at what I call the less popular routes, even though they are still available. So let's talk about asylum. Let's start with asylum. So a person can get permission to live, work, study, and stay in the United Kingdom on the basis of asylum. And a person will qualify to do this if you are a person who is in genuine fear of persecution. You're in genuine fear of persecution from your home country or from the government of your home country. It has to be such that you fear for your life on the basis of your political belief, on the basis of your religious belief, or on the basis of your sexual orientation. So if you are in that sort of category, whether you are abroad or you are here, you actually can claim asylum. Now, I must warn that obviously if you claim asylum, you would have to provide evidence that you are being persecuted, essentially by the government of your country, not by a private individual or person who just does not like you. So the threshold of proof is high for you to qualify for asylum. Another word of warning here. Sometimes when people are desperate to stay in the United Kingdom and they've tried everything and it has failed, sometimes people resort to asylum. Now, there is a provision under the law of the United Kingdom which states very clearly that if you claim asylum when you are not entitled, when that application is refused, it will also be certified. And once it is certified, what it does is it prevents you from being able to succeed in any other application you make subsequently. So whether it be a application, it will not succeed if you claim asylum and the same is certified. So if you think you are facing persecution on the basis of your political belief, your religious belief, or the membership of an ethnic group or a social cultural group, or on the basis of your sexuality, I will advise you to seek what I will call tailor-made legal advice for you to be sure that if you were to make an application, same will succeed, or you would have a good chance of success. So that's asylum. Secondly, persons who have become stateless or persons who are stateless can apply to remain in the United Kingdom. Now, the key thing about this is that you must be in the kingdom to be able to make this application. If you are outside the United Kingdom, obviously, you are not stateless. So if you're in the United Kingdom and you've lost the citizenship of your country for any reason whatsoever, you can actually make an application, and the application can actually be made online, and you will give your reasons and you would explain what has happened and how you became stateless. And this application will be considered by the UKVI and a response would be given. With every application that you make, you would need to provide evidence and proof of what's happened to you, and same will be assessed During the assessment, the UKVI will be at liberty to ask you questions. They are at liberty to ask for proof or for anything that they might require for them to be able to ascertain that you have actually become a stateless person. I intended to share my screen. Let me see if I can do that. Some of these things are put in summary form. So let's see if I can share that. Taiwo, if you can confirm, can the screen is the same?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So let's see. Okay, I've talked about asylum. I'm talking about, I think I pretty much said everything I need to say about statelessness. The most important thing is that you have to show that you've not been recognized as a citizen of any country, or you've lost the citizenship of that country. Okay, let's talk about what the immigration rule describes as Appendix FM. Appendix FM basically talks about the rights of people to family life. If you are an unmarried partner of a person, whether you are in the UK, you can apply to be able to come into the United Kingdom, to be able to live, work, and stay here. If you are a spouse, if you are a child of a person who has leave to remain here, or you are a dependent of a person who has a British passport or indefinite leave to remain here, whether you are a child or an adult, you can actually apply to come into the United Kingdom to come and stay. One very, very popular inquiry that we often get is from people who have parents who are above 65 years of age. So there is a provision within the immigration rules that allow persons who are 65 years and above and who have persons here like children who have British passports or indefinite leave for them to be able to apply to come in and stay indefinitely. The critical provision there, though, is that you need to be able to show that your dad or your mom has need of your personal care and attention. In other words, what they need from you cannot be provided by way of you sending money back to where they live. It can be provided by way of you employing a nurse or a carer to look after them. So you can begin to imagine that the threshold is very high for that sort of application to succeed, but it is not impossible. It is not impossible. And then under Appendix FM, we also have applications that can be made on the basis of price. So for example, a person who has been in the United Kingdom, maybe illegally, and is not married, does not have a child, does not have any ties in the United Kingdom, if you are able to show that you've lived in the UK for 20 years, you would qualify to be able to stay in your own right. You would be given 2.5 years to stay and be placed within what we call the 10-year route into settlement. That means you will need to renew 3 further times before you get indefinite leave. Or if you are someone who is between the age of 18 and you are below the age of 24 and you have spent half of your life in the United Kingdom, you would also be granted and you will be placed within the 10-year route, starting with 2.5 years, which you will need to renew 3 further times before you actually get indefinite leave to remain. There is also what I call human rights applications generally. In other words, you may not have spent 20 years here. You may not have spent half of your life here. If you are between 18 and under 24, you may not have a spouse. You may be unmarried. You may not have children. And yet you have circumstances that are exceptional. In this category, it could be something to do with your health, for example. I mean, we don't pray to be sick, but we do have and circumstances where because of people's health, they are not able to return back, an application can be made. Up until very recently, if you were to make an application on the basis of your health, you would have to show that you had an appointed day of death for such an application to succeed. But the Supreme Court of the United Kingdom have changed that now. So you only need to show that you have what we call exceptional extenuating circumstances. In other words, you need to show, for example, maybe there is no treatment for the ailment that you have, or you actually cannot even fly to go and receive such a treatment. So you can make a general human rights application, and then such an application will be considered by the Secretary of State. Everything is normally assessed based on the evidence you are able to provide and supply. Before I go to business migration or immigration, which is the core of what is actually now very popular in the United Kingdom, with all the applications that you make in the United Kingdom, you must bear in mind that one factor that can negate or make it possible for success to be obtained in any application is the factor of criminality. The United Kingdom has a very strong regime now within the immigration rules that frowns at any form of criminality, which includes even getting a speeding fine or speeding ticket, any form of conviction. I mean, obviously, within the immigration rules, the more serious the offense is, the more serious the punishment with regards to immigration. But generally, the immigration rules and the nationality rules frown at any form of criminality, such that even for nationality now, you've got to be very careful not to even have unpaid parking tickets. I mean, that's not even criminality, but where you have unpaid parking tickets, it is deemed that you do not even understand the way of life in the United Kingdom. That is why you have not paid your parking ticket. So you need to do your best to avoid those little snags. I always talk about speeding because that's one major snag that we see from people. Now let's move over to business immigration, which is the core of what the United Kingdom is all about now. So there is a point-based system. We've had this point-based system for several years now, but in the wake of Brexit, particularly from the time of the Prime Minister, Mrs. May, and now to Boris Johnson, particularly to the current Home Office Secretary, there is a strong emphasis on the point-based system, We've had it in the past. We've had the tier system, which is a point-based system in the past. So what we have today is an introduction of new categories into the old tier system, and they've moved some of the immigration categories from the old tier system to become standalone point-based system. So I would say what we had before and what we have now are working side by side. So aside from the point-based, we have other immigration routes which have now been introduced by the United Kingdom government, the global talents, graduate visas, skilled workers visas. We've always had it, but they've repackaged it, and we're going to talk about each and every one of them. Maybe not in depth, but at least we'll touch on the major requirements that you need to satisfy for you to be granted this visa. It's interesting that the subject Kingswood chose this morning is understanding UK visas and immigration today. I love that word today because immigration is always about today. Things are moving so quickly that you cannot afford to even give advice based on the law that obtained yesterday. You've got to be sure that the same law obtained today before you actually give advice. When I woke up this morning, I saw a news flash in terms of immigration. And what it says is that on Monday, the Home Secretary will make a statement in the House of Commons, and it's about the new UK policy on refugees. So apparently the UK government now wants to be able to grant settlement to refugees only if they are skilled. Note that, only if they are skilled. In other words, you know, the old regime was if you were a refugee and you were just running for fear of persecution, whether you can speak English or not, it doesn't matter, you'll be granted. But now the UK government is saying it's not going to be so anymore. For you to be granted, even as a refugee, you must have a skill. In other words, you've got something to offer us. You can imagine that already rights advocacy groups are already up in arms. You know, but if you know anything about this Home Secretary, you guys know what I'm talking about. You read the news just like I do. She's a tough cookie. And it looks to me like she has the backing of the Prime Minister, and it looks to me like they would do it. So you can imagine, I mean, as an asylum seeker, you need to be a doctor, you need to be a nurse, or you need to have something, you need to be an HR expert, you need to have something to be able to stay in the United Kingdom. So that tells you that the future belongs to those who have some form of skill. So like our pastors, the teachers, I'm sure Pastor Emmy will back me up on this. You've got to have something you're doing. You've got to have something you're doing. I mean, when Pastor Emmy introduced himself, aside from being a pastor, he's an HR expert, you know. And by the way, Pastor Emmy, I wish you luck with the UKBA. You're going to come out shining by God's grace. I've been in one of those meetings before.
To that. We don't want to lose our sponsorship.
Okay, so let's go into the business migration route. Like I said, this is the route that gives you the opportunity to be able to come and work. That's number one. Come and invest. Number two, and ultimately be able to settle. Ultimately be able to settle. So I've told you before that we've always had a tier-based system. They've introduced new categories. So I'm going to be mixing and matching both together. I will do my best to distinguish them based on what the government of today has done. So under the tier system, which is still current today, it's a tier system that has 5 tiers. It's easy to remember this, 5 tiers. So we've got tier 1, we've got tier 2, we've got tier 3, tier 4, and of course we've got tier 5. In summary, for tier 1, we have people in the investors category, people who are innovators, people who want to do something that is now called startup. We'll talk a bit more about those 3. And then tier 2, we still have people who are referred to as skilled workers. But the way the government of today has done it, essentially in that category today, you only have intra-company transfers, we have ministers of religion, and then we have sports personalities and sports persons. So, for example, you know some of these Premiership footballers who are so gifted but are not UK citizens. For any club that wants to take them on, you will need to apply for a tier 2 skilled worker for them, for you to bring them from any country of the world, including in some of the old EU allies now, if they're going to be able to work in the United Kingdom. For tier 3, at the moment, tier 3 is non-operational. So that was brought in by the government for low-skilled workers. If you remember in those days, the UK used to have problems with finding people to pick cherries in the farms, you know, all those sort of jobs that you UK citizens don't want to do, you know. You know, so they brought in, but at the moment, it's not operational at all. Tier 4, as we speak today, is just student visa. It's a standalone. It's like a standalone category now, but I'm sure you guys know that the educational sector is a big money making machine for the UK government, and it's one of those things that drives their economy and drives migration because they believe education gives them the skills that they need, and the UK government is correct on that. You know, so some people are still on the tier 4 visa as we speak, so I will still leave tier 4, and then we have tier 5 where we have all kinds of categories there. We have exchange programs there. We have religious workers there, and we would talk about those things one after the other. So let's talk about tier 1 investor. I pray that for some of you listening today, if we're not there today on this investor category, God will take us there at some point, because for you to qualify in this category, you need to be able to invest, drum roll, £2 million in the UK economy. I remember consulting with a big man from my home country who called me and said, look, I'm not sure where the country is going. I want to come in. I want to come and invest. And then he was thinking of the old investment of £200,000. So he's got over £500,000. And I said, oh, no, we need to move this to 2 million. He said, oh, no, Mr. Adebayo, if I have 2 million now, I would not leave my country, for now. And then we had that chat. Long and short, he was not willing to go ahead. So if you have £2 million to invest in the economy, and it's not just to show the UK VI, you must invest the money. You've got to be able to prove that the money belongs to you or your wife or your unmarried partner, or, not for us, but, those who have same-sex partners, they can prove the money belongs to them, and then you got to show that the money is held in an account that the UKVI can ascertain that you have access to, and the money can be deployed and be transferred to the United Kingdom for the purpose of investment. That's the critical thing. And remember, when you are granted in this category, you are normally granted at least 3 years for a start. And based on the fact that you've invested the money, you've generated jobs, you need to prove that to them. You'll be granted a further 2 years before you are able to go and get indefinite leave to remain. Let me also add that there is no ceiling on your investment in terms of just £2 million. If you want to settle quickly in the United Kingdom, you can invest £5 million. With an investment of £5 million, your route to settlement will be faster. Instead of waiting for 5 years to settle, if you invest 5 million, you will settle within 3 years. So when the Bible says money answers all things, I think Pastor Emi will reconfirm again that scripture is really true, because then it also answers immigration. So you take 3 years to settle, and guess what? If you have 10 million, you will not wait for 3 years. You will wait just 2 years, and then you can settle in the United Kingdom. So that's that about investors. I want you to remember that if you're thinking of any of these categories, these are just broad guidelines. Remember, there is always the general provision that you must be able to speak English. You either show that by taking an accredited test, or you actually show that you have a degree that was taught in English language, which is comparable to a degree that has been obtained in the United Kingdom. You don't have to have obtained it in the United Kingdom. It's only comparable, So I think that's that about investors. Then we have the innovators category. That category, I think the word there is the word innovate. So the business has to be an idea that is different from anything that is currently on the market. So incidentally, this week I had a consultation with someone who got an idea that she feels is different, and she's working on it at the moment and trying to do the patent and all of that. And we had a chat. And even though I'm not an expert, I tried to listen to her, and I said, what's this idea? She told me. I said, well, I don't think I've seen anything like that. So maybe you do stand a chance. So I want to encourage all those of you who are listening, who are creative and innovative people. This might be for you. You just might have something that nobody else has. And if you are that person, this category is for you. The critical thing is you need to have your idea endorsed by an endorsing body in the United Kingdom. If you go on the UKVI website today or at any other time, you will see the list of all the endorsing bodies. And I'm sure you can understand that for the sake or purpose of maintaining standards and being sure that what you have is genuine, this has to be there as a provision by the UKVI. You also need to have access to £50,000 that you want to invest. There's provision to do this as a group. However, that £50,000 is individual. So, for example, I can team up with Pastor Emmy, but I must bring my 50 grand. Pastor Emmy must still bring his own 50 grand. But if our ideas can be cross-fertilized, as it were, to eat the market, that's fine with the UKVI. But each person must still show that they have the requisite amount of money for the investment. Okay, then we have the Tier 1 startup. This one, you don't need to have £50,000. Were you saying something, Pastor Emmy?
I was just saying, I think somebody has put these writings on your presentation. To remove it completely, you have to stop sharing and start again. And I just put a message off to everyone to be careful. I think we're going to take the annotation off so that people can write on the presentation going forward.
Okay, yeah.
All right,
yeah.
but we have to stop
Okay.
and start the share again to remove it.
Okay, should I, because I'm fine with this, if people can see it, but because I'm not sure how far, okay.
Yeah, it stays throughout. Yeah, it stays throughout.
I think it's just the same thing all through.
Indeed.
Do you think I should stop and start again, or we can?
I think if you stop the share and start the share again, it should be all right.
Okay.
It shouldn't take more than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, stop that and let's share again. Okay. I think we're back now. Okay, are we back now? Yes?
Yes, we can see you, sir. If you start the slideshow, maybe so people can see it, the slides a bit bigger.
Okay, I didn't quite hear that, but tell me, did you hear that?
Yeah, so just start the slideshow.
Okay, I've started that now. So can you all see? Are you seeing the slide now, Pastor?
The slideshow hasn't started here. We can see the slide. Yeah, it's the slideshow. Okay, there we go.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, so with the startup, you do not need to have £50,000, and you do not need, obviously, to have £2 million. What is important is you have a business idea that is not out there in the market, that is different. You also need to be endorsed by either a UK higher institution or a business that has a history of supporting entrepreneurs. Again, a list of businesses that do this can be found on the UKVI website. I must commend the UKVI with regards to the openness and transparency. Pretty much, if you have the time and you were to sit down to read their website and the policies, you will be able to get a lot of this information out of them. The only snag I see with this category is that you can only stay there for a maximum of 2 years. It's not a category that can lead to settlement, if you understand what I mean. However, you are allowed to switch from this category to another category. Pretty much generally now, under the point-based system, you are allowed to switch categories. So you can mix and match the 2 years you've obtained as an innovator if you switch to, say, for example, an investor or student. So maybe you were a student for 8 years and you switch to the startup visa and you spend 2 years. After the 2 years, all of the 10 years put together, you will still qualify for indefinite leave on the basis of long residence. So pretty much you can switch, you can mix and match. Unlike the old point-based system where some of the rules relating to switching were very tough, they were like the laws of the Medes and the Persians. Some of them required you to actually step out of the United Kingdom and to come back in. Under this new point-based system, you pretty much in the United Kingdom can switch categories with ease. So that's the summary of what we have in what we call Tier 1 at the moment. The current tier 2, which we have, is just reduced to sports persons and ministers of religion and intercompany transfers. The skilled workers have now been moved into an independent category on its own. So we'll take time to talk about that. So for ministers of religion, so there are churches that have a shortage of ministers of religion, and pretty much they are allowed to recruit from any part of the world. So I represent several churches. I ask for several churches that want to recruit ministers, for example, from Jamaica, simply because of the patois that they speak. They have a large congregation that would love someone to preach to them in patois. And certainly I've worked for congregations that have a large proportion of people who speak particular dialects from certain countries, and they actually want to recruit because they have those sorts of churches in the United Kingdom. And there are churches who genuinely have tried to recruit people in the United Kingdom and have not been able to find people. They can, under tier 2, be able to recruit ministers that they need to be able to come into the United Kingdom to do this. Obviously, for any church thinking of doing this, the basic requirement is that you must have a sponsor's license issued and given to you by the United Kingdom government. Of course, the sports persons, maybe some of you are football agents, listening to me today, or you're planning to become an agent, you will need to know a lot about this, to be able to bring in people in this category. So maybe not a lot to say on tier 2. We're going to deal with skilled workers on its own, which is the in thing now, which is the main thing people are going for in the United Kingdom. So I already told you that tier 3 is no longer in force. So there's not a lot to say about that, except the government resurrects or brings tier 3 back. So tier 4, right now, we have 2 sets of categories there. We have child students and we have people who are general. I still put tier 4 there, even though students is like a category on its own, because a lot of people are switching from this category at the moment and are moving into the graduate visa scheme, or are moving to any of the other tiers or any of the independent tiers. So I always say to people that being a student is, for me, one of the best categories you can be in, even though it's expensive. It takes a lot of your time. You're not able to work, 20 hours maximum and things like that. But there are several opportunities, particularly the graduate visa scheme, which is like the old post-study work that has been brought back. I'm sure you know, in summary, that allows people to work visa-free for 2 years. And in those 2 years, you can make something happen, you can find an employer that will love your skill and pay for it, you can switch categories, your circumstances can change, so many things can happen in those 2 years, and then you can move on. And then in tier 5, there are persons who want to come on a temporary basis. They are within the sporting and the creative sector. So I've had people come in this category for things like arts, to come and do works in the arts, to come and work temporarily with museums and, even artists, celebrated artists. There are people who come in this category to do charity work, religious workers, those who are on some sort of government authorized exchange schemes. I think in those days we used to have working holiday visas. I don't know if some of you remember. There used to be working holiday visas when the UK government still felt comfortable with certain countries, allowing people, the young people from those countries to come, before they brought a ban of, for people between the ages of 18 and 30, if you remember, at some point. With all of these schemes, generally you are allowed to come with your dependents, your spouses, your wives, your civil partners, married partners, and children under the age of 18. Again, for any category you are interested in, you will need to be very particular about the requirements, the eligibility requirements, so that you can be very sure that your dependents are also covered with you. Okay, some of the other business routes that we have now introduced by the current government, we have the Global Talent Visa. And this is for a leader or a potential leader in one of the following fields. So if you're a leader in the academia or research, in arts and culture, in digital technology, obviously they want you to be above the age of 18. I reckon everyone on this platform this afternoon is definitely above this age. I think the critical thing is being a leader in that field. Who determines whether you're a leader or not? Again, when you go on the UKVI website, you have bodies that you can that would sort of like endorse you and confirm your status as a leader or as a person of research in all of these categories. Somebody might be asking, oh, what if, I'm a fresh graduate and things like that. I don't think it's about just your years of experience. It's also about what you've come up with. And if what you've come up with is not in the market and is fresh, you certainly would be the frontline person or leader in that particular category. And this can be applied for by anyone from anywhere around the world. So it's up and running and open. And if you think you qualify, I've had some inquiries from people mostly who have PhDs, to be honest, from abroad, who think, look, I think I'm a leader in this area. What do I do? And then we set about the first task, which is to get some sort of endorsement to confirm who they are before the application can be made. And then, of course, we have the graduate visas, which is very popular. It gives you permission to stay in the UK for at least 2 years after the completion of your course. You have to be sure, again, on the UKVI website, to be sure that the degree you are obtaining or the qualification that you are obtaining will be acceptable for the purpose of the graduate visas. I'm sure you also know that the schools that issue you these degrees are also important. There must be schools that are on the list of registered sponsors recognized by the UKVI. I think things are better now. In those days, we used to have all sorts of colleges, all sorts of schools, and people were being duped. But now, with the sponsorship system in place, I think that has taken care of the problem. But that's not to say some schools are still not, sort of like scamming people. Some of them have lost their licenses, so you need to check and be sure that your school is qualified to be part of this. I think what's important is that you must be in the UK when the scheme finally opens for you to be able to make this application and to score the relevant points. Again, remember, that will be the maintenance and accommodation a requirement. That will be obviously the English language requirement for you to also meet to qualify in this category. Okay, now let's talk about skilled workers in particular now. This used to be under Tier 2. The government has repackaged this whole thing and, in my view, made it easier for people to be able to get visas to stay as skilled workers. So if you have a job offer from an employer that has a sponsor's license, again, the employer must have a sponsor's license, and you are paid a minimum salary, you have a threshold, normally £26,000, 500, and you can speak English language with evidence and proof, you can come and work in the United Kingdom. The beauty of the new skilled worker route is that what we used to have as the resident labor market test has now been done away with. I hope some of you would remember that the difficulty with this route before under Tier 2 was there had to be a resident labor market test, and there was a cap. There was a monthly cap the government gave, to that sector, to that category. And once that cap is reached, no employer can employ anyone anymore. So the government has removed the cap now, and there is no resident labor test anymore. So pretty much, if a person is qualified and has got the skills, there really is no reason why you cannot be recruited from abroad or from here in the United Kingdom. I often encourage people. People say, how many applications do I need to put out there to get a job? As many as you need to until you get someone's attention. You know, I've had people 50, 60, 70, and it was the 80th application that came through with, you know, with a work permit, and they were ready to do whatever was necessary. So I will encourage you, be tenacious. The jobs are there, and the truth is you've got the skills that they need. So it's just a case of, you know, the opportunity of the employer meeting your skills and you being offered what you require. The resident labor test thing has been done away with. The cap has been done away with. So there is no real reason why you can't take advantage of this skilled workers route now. Under the same skilled workers route, we have the health and care workers. I'm sure you know, because of the importance of the NHS, this is one sector that has enjoyed some sort of fast tracking, where people who are health professionals, medical professionals, doctors, nurses are able to come in to work, not just in hospitals. Some of them are able to come in and work even in care homes. And the key requirement is for the employer here to have at least a sponsor's license. And remember again, because there's no resident labor test and there's no cap in this sector, pretty much if you're an health professional, you can come into the United Kingdom to work. You can decide if you are, for example, a nurse somewhere in Zambia, a nurse somewhere in Zimbabwe, Nigeria, and you have the skills, you can make up your mind and say, I want to immigrate to the United Kingdom. The likelihood that you will find a job is very high. It's very high because the requirements are not, you know, they're not onerous to satisfy and to meet. So this is one sector I can tell you that loads of people in the last 1 year have come in, loads of people. And you can imagine in the wake of COVID, in the wake of what's been going on, there's a serious need here. I often say to people that this is one sector that is recession-proof, you know. So those of you who are in this sector, you know what I'm talking about. So I think intercompany transfer, you know what that means. If you're working for a company already and they have a branch here, they want to move you. So the logistics of doing that, I think in the whole of my career, you know, practicing, I've only had maybe about 3 or 4 people on intercompany transfer, you know, who were moved from their home country here to the United Kingdom, maybe 2 or 3. So it's not that popular because, you know, they move you, sometimes they move you here 1 year, they move you to South Africa, depending on the company. So not a lot to say about that. So I think I've talked about the key things relating to Tier 2. The resident labor market test is being removed. Switching of categories is allowed. English language remains a requirement. Dependents are allowed to join the main applicant. And of course, criminality is discouraged, any form of it. I've tried not to speak for too long. I hope I've not spoken for too long. But in summary, those are the routes that are available to be able to come into the UK to study, to live, to work, yourself and your dependents.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Taiwo, thank you. I will hand over to you.
No, I just wanted to come in with a quick question that's just come into the chat, only because it's really pertinent to this section of your presentation at the moment.
Okay.
Apologies to interject. But someone was just asking where you spoke just now about doctors and nurses, whether this also relates to pharmacists or kind of people working in the medical field. So for example, I know that there's a lot of work that has gone on in India, for example, around the COVID vaccine. So would someone who supported that kind of initiative looking to come to the UK to work in what is essentially still the medical field or research, would someone like that have an opportunity to come in on that particular tier visa, or would they have to do something different? I know we haven't got a Q&A yet, apologies, but I thought it's really relevant to what you're talking about now.
Thanks, Taiwo. My answer to that would be yes. That sort of person should qualify. I say that because the word used there is healthcare professionals. So if you are an healthcare professional, you work within that sector, in principle, you would qualify. Remember, for every application, they would have to consider your particular circumstances. They would have to consider what it is that you have on offer and what the employer in the UK needs you for. And because the environment is still evolving, we're still dealing with the Delta variant. We don't, God forbid, I don't want to say, God forbid, another variant is coming. So you might just be that person who has done some work that the pharmaceutical company here requires your skill. I can tell you that not only are you welcome, the UK government will fast track whether you are a pharmacist, you are whatever, healthcare professional. That's the catch, healthcare professional. So my answer to that would be yes. But again, with every application, you've got to be particular. You've got to package it in such a way that obviously the employer that wants you states very clearly the criteria. You meet the criteria, you will be allowed to come in. If you're an healthcare professional, and I would say pharmacists are part and parcel of healthcare delivery and they're healthcare professionals. Yes.
Absolutely fantastic session. I mean, I've sat here, I've taken so many notes, and there's questions flowing in already. So Pastor Wale, if you can please stop sharing your screen.
Okay.
Then I think we might be good to move into the Q&A section of today's session. We've got a very, very good turnout. So I just want to thank everyone first and foremost for giving up your time this afternoon to come and listen to Pastor Wale's session. It's been absolutely amazing, as I said. Someone's messaged me and said I tried to dodge a bullet earlier by not answering the question about how I got here. So I came in on a dependent visa. So my dad came in to study in the UK. God knows how many thousands of years before. I say thousands, but quite a long time. He didn't go back, and so he regularized his stay. And then I came in as a dependent of my dad, and then the rest, as they say, is history, to be honest. So. Thank you.
The cat is out of the bag.
It wasn't really a cat in my opinion. I think I just answered the question as I naturally do. I'm a very jovial person. So the first thing that came into my head was I came in on a boat. And that was my response. But no, thank you so much, sir. That was an amazing session. I'm going to go into the Q&A now, if that's okay. As I said, there's been quite a few questions. We had a raised hand. So we had someone whose question was, I think, a bit too complicated to type. And I can't see your name. Oh, I think is it? No, it's not. It's not. Okay, let me ask the questions and then we'll try and work out how to find out who wants to. Or if you just raise your hand again, please, and then I can spot you again. So the first question that popped in was, do you have to finish your master's studies before putting a job application in to move to the skilled workers route? Thank you, Manuel. Yes, that. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, I think I understand the question. So I'll repeat it. Taiwo, please help me, Pastor Emi, if I'm wrong. So do you have to finish your master's before you put in for the skilled workers route? Yep.
Yeah. Or apply for a job in that skilled workers route.
So my answer to that will be yes and no. I would say yes and no because if the job you are applying for, if your master's degree or your master's qualification is a requirement, for example, if the reason the employer wants you or the reason you are attractive to them is because you are about to complete your master's, maybe in robotics or something, then I would say it's important that you finish so that you can, sign the contract. But there are jobs that you apply for and you are doing a master's, but the reason you have the skill is not because you're doing a master's. Maybe it's something you've been doing anyway. Maybe you are like Pastor Emmy, you're an HR expert. You're not studying a master's in it. You're studying a master's in BizAdmin, but you're an HR expert. But you're doing a master's in BizAdmin, and you apply for a job in HR, and you have the experience. They love you. The master's is irrelevant because the basis of them wanting you is the skill that you've acquired as a person who is an HR expert. But if the master's you're doing is relevant to the job, I would say, yes, you need to finish it, because remember, the employer must keep a record. Pastor Emmy will back me up on this, because when the Home Office comes to check, they will say, why did you employ him? You say, oh, we like the fact that he has a master's.
That's correct.
And they say, okay, have you kept a record of the qualification? You say, no, not really. That would be a problem.
That's a problem.
That's why I said yes or no. I think, Pastor Emmy, you know a lot about what I just said.
Yeah, you have to present the qualification. So when the UKVI came to the office last week, they asked us to present not just evidence of a certificate of sponsorship, but things like qualifications, a current passport. So there are a number of things they want to see in addition to the visa application process to kind of demonstrate that we took those things into consideration, because those things lend themselves towards the point-based system. You get points based on the qualification, the salary, and so those things must be on file for the individual. So yes, it depends on if your master's is required for that application.
Thank you, yeah.
Thank you for that, sir. Okay, so I'll move on to the next question then. This person says, my question is based on tier 2 skilled workers. So basically that of a minister of religion. What are the criteria for that? I am a young minister.
Okay, so minister of religion, there is no stipulated, for example, educational qualification. You don't need to have even attended a Bible school. What's important is if a church or a religious group have a need, they must advertise their need. Normally, a religious group will say, we need someone who is an adherent of our faith. We need someone who can lead worship, lead prayers. The key thing is adherent of their faith. So they are allowed to then build their own questions and recruitment guidelines around you being an adherent of their faith. So you might not even have a university degree, and yet you're an adherent of the faith. You can speak English language, you meet all the other requirements, provided the interview process is robust and the church or the mosque, in the context, let's put it this way, equal opportunities, or the whatever, they keep the records, they do the interviews, and you pass the interviews, they can employ you. So let's look at a scenario where you have a church and you're a member of that church. Maybe you teach the membership class in that church, and the pastor thinks you are fantastic. And the pastor says, hey, I think we can make this person the minister of religion because he's done so well in this area. All they need to do is to set out their criteria and then advertise the job, and they interview you if they have a sponsor's license. And if they keep the records and you are the best, they offer you the job. And they must follow all the procedures because, like Pastor Emmy said, actually the employer following the procedure is as important as you getting the visa. Because if the employer doesn't follow the procedure and you have the visa, can you believe this? They can go to the employer and say, license suspended. What's the impact of that? Your visa also will be suspended. So for the employer and yourself, the responsibility is so high. So I don't want to say this, but I'll say the threshold is not that high for minister of religion. If the employing body has got the financial capacity, you are an adherent of the faith, and you are really required. So when I say adherent of the faith, Pastor Emmy can talk more about faithfulness, loyalty, diehard Jesus follower, all those sort of things that they need for a person in ministry, for example. So if those requirements are met, you can be employed.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir. We've got a plethora of questions coming in. I think we'll go to the raised hands. We'll go to the raised hands quickly because I know Manuel got in there quite early. in terms of that. So Manuel, please, if you're in a quiet location, can you unmute yourself and ask your question? Can I please ask that if you're not in a quiet location, please type the questions in the chat window or send me a direct message. I'm logging all the questions, so we'll ask them in turn. But Manuel, please, you can unmute now and ask your question. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Fantastic. So my question is in relation to how long can I apply for an indefinite leave? So for my background, I've been in the UK for 6 years on a Tier 4 student visa because of my master's and PhD, which I just recently completed. I am currently on a doctoral extension scheme visa, which lasts 1 year. And I want to know what exactly my options are. How soon can I apply for an indefinite leave? I currently have a job, and I will hopefully be sponsored after my doctoral extension scheme visa has run out. But how soon can I apply for indefinite leave? And if I do move to a sponsorship visa, maybe a Tier 2 under my current employer, does that affect my timeline for applying for indefinite leave?
Thank you, Emmanuel. So I believe that the 6 years you're talking about has been the 6 years of your study, and those 6 years are the only years you've acquired in the United Kingdom. Am I correct?
Very correct, sir.
Thank you, Manuel. So at the present time, because you've been a student for 6 years, you would qualify to apply for indefinite leave to remain upon the attainment of 10 years of lawful residence in the United Kingdom. Now, I'm saying this because you are not in a work permit category at the moment. And even if you were to switch into a work permit category, the work permit category, you would need to have spent 5 years for you to qualify for indefinite leave on its own. But because you've acquired 6 years now, if you were to switch after your postdoctoral into some sort of skilled work category, you would not need to spend 5 years in that category before you qualify for indefinite leave because you already have 6 years. So upon 10 long years, you would qualify for indefinite leave to remain as the immigration rules stand today, not any time before.
Okay. Thank you
very much.
Thank you, Manuel. As Pastor Wemi said earlier, Pastor Wale will share his details at the end of the session. So I'm sure he'll be inundated with clients on the back of this particular call this afternoon. We've got a couple of hands raised, but I'm just going to ask you I'm going to answer a number of kind of similar questions. So someone said, who's put this session together? You clearly didn't join at 1 p.m., but thank you for joining. It's Kingsword International Church, London, and all of our details will be shared at the end of this session as well. You can also watch the replay of this session back on our YouTube channel, and the links are in the chat. So if you just scroll back up, you will find that. There was a question in here as well that I think can be quickly answered. So someone wanted to know how to apply for the skilled workers route. Is there a link that you can share, Pastor Wale, with everyone? And then someone wanted to know whether you can share your PowerPoint slides. I don't know what value that will be, but
sorry, if I could share my what?
Your PowerPoint slides.
Oh yeah, that's fine. I can send it to Pastor Emi, and
Okay.
It's a very brief. It's not detailed. So, but caution, you must read more, please, so that you can. Yeah. So absolutely. The person who asked the question about the skilled workers thing, it's very simple. The Home Office have made this very simple. If you go on the UKVI, you even type in skilled worker, all the links are there. Very, very simple and straightforward. The critical thing is this: you cannot just apply. There must be a sponsor. So I cannot just wake up and say I'm going to apply. Now, before I do that, certain things must have happened before then. So, for example, I must have applied for a job. I must have been offered the job. Maybe I've signed the contract, and then the employer has given me a certificate of sponsorship. Remember, it's a point-based system. So, for example, you are required to score 70 points. Normally, the certificate of sponsorship will be like 50 points, maintenance 10 points, English language 10 points. That's 70 points in all. So you can imagine if you go apply yourself and you don't have a sponsor, obviously, you can score the 10 points for English and maintenance. But what about the sponsorship, which you cannot give yourself? It has to be given to you by an employer. So once that is done, most employers, because of their duty to the UK VI, once they give you the certificate of sponsorship, they are interested on how you apply. So they either are guiding you or actually are paying a solicitor to do it for you. Whichever way, it's not difficult. The link is on the UK VI. If you go UK VI skilled workers application, you will just see, once you see the information right below it, it will say apply. And then you can click on it. But I always say before you apply, even if you cannot afford to pay a solicitor a fee to apply for you, you might want to consider maybe a consultation, just for you to clarify one or two things to be sure. Even if you cannot afford a consultation, you might just need to dedicate time, read and ask questions, so that you're pressing the right things. Most of these applications are designed in a way to be done by individuals if they so desire. Some of those things could be technical, but you can do it. So I encourage people to just read and ask questions if you're not clear, if you meet me on a very nice day and you just call me and I'm like in a very bubbly mood, the Lord has just done a miracle. I just give you all the answers like that, just like that, without consultation.
I'm going to contact the Holy Spirit, sir, because I'm going to need to make one of those phone calls to you sometime very soon. Because I'm one of those people yes, I'm one of those people that I always read and I take time to kind of study and try and figure out all these things before I put in an application. But I think I'm listening to you talk this afternoon. I think I might have maybe taken a slight wrong turn. So it might be an opportunity for me to actually maybe have a phone conversation or a phone call. But I just thought
I'll connect you, Taiwo.
Yes, go to Pastor me.
There was one thing I was going to add as well, that there is a list on the UK, on the government website of sponsors employers, right? So employers who have got the sponsorship ability, there's a list of them on the government website, gov.uk. If you get that list, you can it's a shopping list of who can sponsor people in the United Kingdom based on location, based on their job, and it's an A to Z of everyone who has got a sponsor license in the United Kingdom. And so you can shop for an employer there based on your skills and experience, go to their website and see if they have a job that they're sponsoring. So that's another way to find how to get into the skilled worker route. Find somebody who can sponsor you, get a job with them, and the journey has started basically.
Just to add one more thing, Pastor Taiwo, Pastor Emmanuel, that's a very good point, because I've had people, believe it or not, who are falling victim to so-called employers, and it was in desperation. So someone needs a job, himself, his family, and this person comes and says, "Oh, look, my agency, we have a sponsor's license. Give me X amount. I know what to do to sort you out in the interim."
Indeed.
And this guy goes to borrow, and then just giving you true life story. And then at the interview, only they came to me for consultation after the interview. They wanted to make the application. I said, "What's the name of the employer?" They told me. Then I went to that list Pastor Emmanuel just talked about. And we searched for this employer to no end. He didn't have a sponsor's license. So when we did further search, we now found that he had a license. It was suspended.
Wow.
Which meant that he had no right to employ anyone.
Wow.
Now, what was the problem? This guy couldn't get his money back. We're talking of a deposit of over 10 grand. If you understand the context in which I'm speaking, because of desperation. And this guy gave all kinds of excuses. Don't worry, they will restore it. In the first place, there shouldn't have been exchange of money, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
But I'm actually just giving it as an example where people are even desperate. Desperation does not mean that basic things shouldn't be done, like what Pastor Emmanuel said. Do a search.
Yeah.
Check the name. You know, Pastor Emmanuel said it for the positive to look for an employer. I'm also saying it to avoid the negative.
Yeah.
You know, in case you get to that point, do your own due diligence. You know, it's there. It's free on the government side.
Free.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. I wanted to add earlier that to the person I was asking who's organizing today's event, you can send an email to hello@Kingswood London. Pastor, please correct me.
Yeah, .org. Yeah, Kingswood London. hello@kingswoodlondon.org. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can drop an email, ask as many questions as you want, and you know someone's always on hand to help and support with that. And one of our leaders in Kingswood just put a comment in the chat window as well. There's a list of roles or occupations or jobs that are within short supply in the UK, and that's available on the .gov site as well, so that you can kind of tailor that to what tailor the role to what you're able to do, and then you can apply in that context as well. Okay, I think Oluwatobi Kolako, you've got your hand up, so you can unmute yourself, please, if you're in a quiet place, and ask your question now. We've got a few more raised hands and a very long list of questions that hopefully we'll be able to answer in the next 27 minutes. But if we don't get to your questions, please, again, if one of the people in Kingswood can help me drop that email address in the chat window. If you send that email, we will try and coordinate all of those questions and get Pastor Wale to help us give answers to them, because I'm conscious we've got a very long list here. And we've got
Taiwan. I think, like we've said, Pastor Wale is going to share his details. And I guess, you know, people want to kind of kick off that relationship with him as well to kind of get that going. So he will put his details in the chat room so that people can copy it. People can take it away. So Pastor Wale, if you can put your details in the chat room, and then if you've got any, that way people can also email him directly and kind of say, okay, I've got these questions, how can you support? And he's not one of those people that will take the money and disappear and it's not available, right? We brought him online because we trust his business. Like I said, I've referred many people to him, and I continue to do so. So that's
all right. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I must commend everyone. Thank you. You're doing a great job. In fact, I'm so happy and excited to, listen to this. Yes, my uncle in the UK just said I should join. I'm like, okay, let me try. Okay, so my question is quickly. My fiance is applying for nursing degree BSc in Sheffield, UK, and what I heard was I could join her as a dependent. But when going to the website, I started hearing that a few agents or a few persons told me that, oh, I can't join her, if she's going in for a BSc, that it has to be a master's, degree. And so I'm a bit confused. I'm a bit worried here that what happens, because we're about tying the knot in a couple of months. And we're looking at, okay, if I'll be able to join her, then maybe we could just tie the knot earlier so that we can use the certificate to process our visa. And so I need to be clear here. Is it possible for me to join her as a dependent, seeing that she's coming for BSc nursing? Or is there any other route I could use to join her?
Okay. Thank you very much for that question. The general rule with regards to people who are able to join the main applicants in the United Kingdom is if you are on a degree and you're studying in a university. If you are studying in a university, not in a college, your dependents should be able to join you. I'm not sure where you read that. If you have a link, I'm willing to look at that.
I've heard it before as well. Nursing degree.
In particular, yes.
Pastor Wale, I've heard it before actually. Somebody told me that they heard that they couldn't bring their dependents because they wanted to come and study a nursing degree. So I wonder if they have to be nursing in particular.
Okay, so in terms of, because his own is nursing in particular.
Exactly.
Okay, I will look into that and be able to give you a particular answer, because the general provision is if you are studying at a publicly funded university, you can bring your dependents. What they tried to do was to prevent those who are not at the level of universities to avoid a proliferation at the time. They prevented them from bringing their dependents. But this specific one, as you keep asking the questions, Taiwo, I will check for you, sir, with regards to nursing degrees. And hopefully I can, maybe before we are done, provide you a link that will give us a specific answer to that specific question. Yep.
Thank you, Pastor Wale. Thank you.
You can go ahead as I'm checking this forward.
Thank you for that, Kolapo. We've got a few more raised hands, but I want to quickly run through some of these questions because I'm conscious we've got quite a few. So there's a question here about someone who says, I'm currently on a one-year tier 5 visa. I switched from a tier 4 after my 1-year MBA. I've been told that I may find it difficult to switch and it does not count for settlement. I would like some advice on this. So that's a student element. I'm going to tag a second question to it as well, please, Pastor Wale, if I can. So this other person says, can you please speak on marriage? So I'm on a student visa / undocumented. So I'm assuming that probably means a student visa that's probably potentially run out. I'm getting married. So they want some sort of clarity there. And then the third one, again, is a student one. So this person says, I'm a software developer who came to do my master's here, and I've been getting offers, but I can't accept them because my current master's as an international student. My current master's is as an international student, and my software developer qualifications is not related to my master's program. So I think that person came in to do a course. They've been working as something different to the master's program. And the question is whether they can regularize their immigration status in some way. And then the other person was around switching their tiers. And I think the third one is a student who was on a student visa, but is now getting married. So I don't know.
Okay, so let's deal with the issue of marriage first. So I'm not sure if this particular person, because the person used the word undocumented, if you are a student, obviously you are allowed to switch into the marriage route. You are allowed to marry if you're a student. That means you have a current visa. You are allowed to switch from being a student into a spouse. Obviously, your spouse must show that they have the requisite amount of money, which is 18,600 if there is no child, and then you must show the ability to speak English language. And of course, you're married and your relationship is genuine. So if you're a student, I think it's pretty straightforward. You can switch. If you are undocumented, because I think that word was used, undocumented. In other words, you possibly do not have any leave to remain presently. You need to listen to this very carefully. What the law says is, ordinarily you should leave the UK, go abroad and apply for entry clearance. If you do not have any other factors like children, you are just you were a student, you are now undocumented, and you want to regularize. Ordinarily, the law says you should leave the UK and come back in with a guarantee that if punished for overstaying, there is a guarantee that if you do that, you will not be punished for overstaying. Again, there are exceptions to we will not punish you. If you were asked to sign on by the Home Office and you refuse to sign and you embark from the UK to try to come back in, they won't let you come back. So those who have ever been asked to sign on by the Home Office and are not signing, if any solicitor says you need to go out, I'm saying to you by the law, you won't be able to come back, even if you're married to a British citizen. So you need to bear that in mind. If you've ever claimed asylum and it was deemed to be a false claim, and you were to leave to try and come back will be very difficult. So what do you do if you're undocumented and you can't go back because you're in this category? The law says you can still apply if you are able to show that there are exceptional circumstances in your case that prevents you from going back to your country. One of them obviously would mean if there was a child in the relationship. That's the most popular one. That's the most obvious one. If there's a child in a relationship and you're a joint primary carer for the child, your excuse is, I can't go back leaving this child who is British uncared for. If there are health circumstances or there are other exceptional issues that you might come up with, depending on your situation, it can be considered. One of them obviously would also include things like, look, my husband or my wife satisfies every other requirement. There's accommodation, there's finance, I speak English, everything is in order. The only thing that is not in order is I'm undocumented. So give me a chance. You might just be given a chance looking at it from that angle. I hope I've answered the issue of marriage.
Yes, so they're not married yet, they're getting married, but I think it kind of applies. So once they get married, all of those things that you say will apply to that particular situation. Yes. So
just one more thing, Taiwo, sorry. One more thing on marriage. I'm not sure if the person is thinking, if you're undocumented and you want to marry, for example, people are not sure, oh, I'm undocumented, can I marry? The answer is yes, you can. Oh, I've watched so many clips, they go to the registry, blah, blah, blah. That's only for people who are involved in arranged marriages. If a marriage is genuine and you are undocumented, no one is coming to come and bust your marriage, because there is no question they're going to ask you about your relationship that you will not be able to give them a satisfactory answer. So most of those things you see are only for folks who have gone into some kind of arrangement that is illegal. So I've had so many people who would say, oh my God, I'm afraid, but since you said I can do it, I'll do it. They go to the registry, they call me, I'm by the door of the registry, are you sure I should go in? I say, go in, no one is going to mess you up, And then they go in. Most of them are British citizens today. And when I talk to them, I'm always saying, are you sure I should go in? Are you sure I should go in? Because they were afraid, So if your relationship is genuine and you're undocumented, you still can marry without problems.
Thank you, sir.
That's a powerful thing you just said there. I think that is going to bring a lot of deliverance to people who are in those circumstances. That's powerful.
Good stuff. I have someone who sent me about 60 direct messages, so I'll just answer their question. I'll just ask the question, but I didn't ask the question earlier because I think it's very vague, but I'll ask it anyway. They said, can someone come on a visitor's visa that leads to settlement, please, any route? For me, that sounds like even I'm not a legal expert, but it sounds like a textbook question, because there's so much you can explore in that space, but I'll let Pastor Wale attempt to answer that question.
So what I would say to that question is this. The general principle in the immigration rules is, if you come as a visitor, you've got to go back. Remember that the condition of grant is that you satisfied them that you will return. If you remember when you are applying, they will say incentives to return. So that's the general rule. And actually, when you look at the immigration rules in categories of marriage, it's clearly spelled there. You can apply except if you're a visitor. They don't want you to apply if you've come in as a visitor. They want you to go back. So it's a very strict rule. It's a very strong rule. Have I seen people who have come in as visitors and have stayed on successfully? Yes. It's all down to your circumstances. So let me give you just some examples. I've had people come in as visitors and they've had their wives here doing something before, but they were working and they've been coming in and out as visitors. The wife fell pregnant, baby was born, the man came over and decided to stay. Now, in that sort of situation, it's easy to show that because the child normally has right to remain here, the father has also come as a visitor and is saying, look, I want to be part of the life of my child, and every other requirement is met. The Home Office will normally waive that requirement of having to go back. So I've seen that happen before. But the general rule is, if you're a visitor, you need to go back. And we've had old people, some of our moms, dads, when it was time to go, they fell ill. There was nothing we could do. And then, we had to apply, because we didn't want them to become overstayers, We applied and, some have been granted, some are still waiting, that sort of thing. So there are exceptions, but the general rule is you satisfy them, you will return. So they want you to return. But where there are exceptions, you've got to show them the exception and say, I know your rules, but please, can you consider me outside of the rules? I just remember something, Taiwo. Someone asked a question. He was a student, then moved to tier 5.
Yeah, so the person's just dropped the question again, I think, into the
Okay.
so they're currently on a 1-year tier 5 visa. They switched from a tier 4. They switched from a tier 4 after the 1-year MBA, and they've been told that they may find it difficult to switch again as it does not count as settlement.
So what I would say to that person, number one, I don't know how many years you spent as a student, because obviously, in terms of length of residence and indefinite leave, we're still looking at 10 years. So let's even assume you've spent 5 years as a student. Now you are in tier 5, which is a temporary category. The truth of the matter is that for you to benefit from the immigration system, you will need to switch from that category to another category, say, for example, skilled work. I'm not sure if you can go back to student because I'm not sure what you studied. And you know that you can't just go back to student if what you've studied or what you want to study will not add value to what you've studied before, or you've spent a particular number of years studying certain things. So the student route itself is not as straightforward as it used to be. Now there are other technical requirements, for you to go back as a student. But the easy way, which I know is easy by God's grace, is for you, for example, to get a skilled job. That because you can still switch from that category to get a skilled job, and your continuity of residence is not broken. I think for you, the critical thing is that your continuity of residence, you don't want it broken. If you can go back as a student as a kind of standing measure before you get a job, it will be brilliant. But a lot of care, research, questioning has to be done before you say you want to go back as a student, to be sure you actually qualify. I haven't studied for a long time, I want to presume, because you said you've done a master's, So, I don't know, maybe a PhD for you. I know that's money for you to spend. But if you've spent 5 years already, that's a lot of years to lose in terms of continuity. So you're looking at switching from that category to another category for continuity.
Absolutely. Thank you so
That's
much.
the best way I can deal with that. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Pastor Wale. Anu, I can see your hand. Oluwatobi, I can see your hands. Please bear with me. I will come to those raised hands shortly. I'm just trying to get through this really long list we've got here. So someone just wanted to double check what you said earlier, Pastor Wale, about, hi Taiwo, can I just double check I heard him right earlier? I think he said there are a couple of different legal routes for a total of 10 years, which will make me eligible for an indefinite leave to remain. So there are a number so that's right.
That's
so,
what
yeah.
I said.
Yeah.
So let me just say that I've been a student for 4 years, and then you go on post-study work for 2 years. Before your post-study work runs out, you return back as a student, say for example, for 1 year. And then before the 1 year runs out, you were able to get a job. All those routes put together, provided the residence is not broken. In other words, there was not one time that you submitted your visa application out of time. And there was not one time you left the country for a period of 6 months, normally under the rules for long residence, that you left and you didn't come for 6 months, or maybe you came back after 7 months. In other words, even if you left the country and you came back after 3 months, your residence is still not broken under the 10 years rule as it stands right now. So for example, let me give you an example. You have lived there, you've studied for 4 years, and you leave the country and you were out for 2 months, and you returned back to study, for example, your long residence is not yet broken. That's an example. So there is a long residence 10-year policy that gives you scenarios and examples, but certainly you can mix and you can match students, work permit, post-study work, minister of religion, you mix and match everything, and provided you did not break your residence, you didn't submit late. Even if you submitted late, provided it's not up to 14 days. I don't encourage you to be late at all, but if for any reason you were late, and it's not more than 14 days, you will still be granted indefinite leave to remain if you mix and match all those routes together. Because you can imagine it's not always easy to qualify in one route if you are not married, or if you are not that sort of person who got settled because your parents were settled early, you know, and things like that. It's not easy to get to settle. Normally, it's going to take 10 years, except you're in work permit as the route. Normally, 10 years without work permit.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that acknowledgement, Anu. Thank you. And thank you for lowering your hand. Oluwatobi will come to you, and Oluwatosin in a short while. Please just keep those hands raised. I'm going to run through a number of these questions again. So there's someone here who says, my husband is a permanent resident and plans to apply for his British citizenship next year. He's eligible to do so. I'm currently on a spousal visa, leave to enter. Can he go ahead and apply? I think that's a yes.
Yeah, no, the answer is no.
Wow, okay.
Because what you just said, what if I understand very well, the husband has indefinite leave to remain now.
Yes, he's planning to apply for the citizenship.
But the wife is still on a spousal visa.
Yep, leave to enter.
And the wife is now asking, can I just, can we do 2 for 1? Let me just join my husband and apply for.
Can he go ahead and apply? So I assume she's asking whether her being here would affect her husband applying for his British citizenship. I'm assuming that's what the question is.
Okay. So I thought I heard you say maybe the wife is saying, can I also apply? So maybe I should answer the two. The husband can go ahead and apply whether the wife is here or not. Particularly, let's look at the situation, the wife is here. The husband qualifies. It's a legal thing. So you satisfy the provisions of the law. What the provision of the law with regards to nationality? You have indefinite leave to remain, you've been granted. At least you've had it for more than 1 year. And they will look at the last 10 years of your residence in the UK. And in those 10 years, you must not have had your residence broken. Some people don't know this. But as we speak today, as I'm speaking to you, that's the requirement. So if you want to apply now, say, for example, you got your indefinite leave 5 years ago, and I use the word indefinite leave. I'm not using the word permanent residence. Because if you got permanent residence under the EU, they don't look at the last 10 years. Let's not talk about that because that's not the question. But if it's indefinite leave, they look at the last 10 years, and your leave must not have been broken for even one single day for those 10 years. So our husband qualifies and can apply with her being in the country. No hassles. But she cannot transit from being his dependent right now to getting British nationality. She would have to qualify in her own right for indefinite leave first. That's the first thing she must qualify for under the British Nationality Act. Then she would apply for British nationality when she qualifies. So I think I've answered both questions. Yes. Our presence here doesn't stop the husband, so the husband should not wait. I don't anticipate that they will change the law, but my principle with immigration and nationality is do it when you qualify. Do it now, because you don't know what they're going to do tomorrow. So being here doesn't stop the man, and she can benefit in terms of transiting from leave to remain straight to nationality. No.
British citizenship. No, that's good. Yeah. Thank you, Faswale. I think I'm going to keep going through this list because it feels to me like the questions on the list are getting answered and then people are lowering their hands. So I'll keep going with the questions and then hopefully we'll kind of work through it that way. So the next one says, I'm a full-time carer to my daughter and it's been very difficult getting back to work due to childcare. Is it possible to apply for my sister to stay with me? She is here on a visiting visa already and she's been very helpful. So I would like to know if I can apply for her to remain here in the UK as she is helping me.
Okay, so this person I want to believe is settled here. And then the daughter, if I understand it very well, has come in here. I don't know who is looking after her. Is she looking after her daughter?
The person she's a carer. So I assume the daughter has needs. So the daughter might be, I don't know the context, but she says, I'm a full-time carer for my daughter. So her daughter has needs, she's caring for her, but her sister has come over and has been helping to care for that child. So the
Oh,
question was whether the sister who's coming on a visiting visa and helping to care for that child can apply to stay further so that
okay.
the mother of the child can then go on and
I
get
get
work.
it now. Thanks for that. I get it now. So essentially, you have someone who is a visitor who is being very helpful for your British citizen child who needs help and care. Now, that sort of application is a kind of human rights application that is not covered by the rules. So it's going to be an application outside the rules. And the way the Home Office will analyze or deal with that application, I've seen these applications before, is to first of all ask the question, your daughter, in terms of the kind of care she needs, if she needs care, is it something that our GP knows about? Is it something the NHS knows about? And have you asked for this support and it has not been given to you? That's the first question they ask. So if it's not that sort of scenario whereby care is required, where care is required, the position is that the NHS will give it to you. It's not going to be care that you desire to give, as it were, over and beyond what is necessary. Remember, we're talking about the ability to stay on in the United Kingdom, and they're very sensitive about it. So if the health situation is not the sort that requires care to be given by the NHS, remember that you and I know that there are people within our communities, children, old people who get care. Some of them get a certain number of hours per day. Some of them have permanent carers. They have carers who come in, look after them, and go away. That's because there has been an assessment, and they've said this person needs support, this person needs care. So if the child is not in that sort of category, you can begin to imagine that your argument for allowing your sister to stay will not be as strong. If there is an argument that there is a need for care and the NHS is struggling with providing the care or are not providing the number of hours, you can begin to see that you have a logical basis for them making a case for your sister. What you should avoid is trying to make a case based on just what you fancy. You have to try and make a case appealing to somebody that is an adversary and say, look, can I try and convince you here? And your starting point will be, look, the assessment of the doctor is that she needs care, but the NHS is struggling. This person has been filling in the gap and has been doing so very well. In addition, you may need to do other things. For example, you may need to go and speak to a therapist who says, look, only you caring for this child is not good for you. The therapist will write a report and say, I know this person, only you caring is not good for you. This person assisting, allows you to have a good balance of life. The therapist writes his or her report. Now, remember, that therapist will not be an NHS therapist. It's going to be a private therapist. You are going to pay for that. The therapist writes that report. You put it with the application. So this is not your opinion. This is the opinion of an expert. And then you make a strong case and then say, please consider this. And then there's something all of you will know, I'm sure, what we call the best interest of children. Section 55, safeguarding of children. The argument is made and said, look, this person being in the UK is good for this child. It fosters the welfare of this child. If this person is caring for your child, the school should know this person. So the school should be able to drop a line and say, oh, we know this person. He drops, he picks. Can you see now that you are building evidence? You are not just saying it, you are building evidence. The GP should know the person. Deliberately, you should let the person be the one to take the child to the GP on some occasions. So you can ask the GP for letter and the GP will say, yes, we know this person. When the mother is unable to do ABC, this person does it. So you have letter from GP, you have letter from school, you have letter from therapist. So you now have some objective evidence you place to them. Then your application has a chance. If I was the one deciding your case, I can tell you I will grant it. But I'm not the one. So you've got to prepare. Yeah, you've got to prepare in such a way that if the person said no and you are given the right of appeal, these documents that you prepared, if you were to give it to an independent judge, would you stand a chance? You should convince yourself and say, I think I should stand a chance. That's when I would say, that's the time to make that sort of application. But when those things are not present, all you are just saying is, oh, she's helpful. She might be helpful, but you need to turn things around and provide evidence. You know, God will give you that wisdom, but those are the sort of things that you can do to make it successful.
Amen. Thank you so much, Pastor Wale. I'm conscious you've been speaking now for over an hour, kind of clocking up to 2 hours now. So if you want to grab a drink or just a bit of a comfort break.
Okay, let's go on. Let's do it.
What we're going to do very quickly is we're going to load a short poll now. So please it's literally going to take about 30 seconds to a minute. Just help us answer those questions. It's going to come up automatically on Zoom.
Okay.
We'll come back to the questions. I can guarantee you we've got a lot of questions to go through still. But please help us complete the poll. I think, Pastor Emi, someone will load that poll up now.
Yeah. And just to say that even after the poll, we're going to take a few more questions, but wanted to do the poll because we can see that people are dropping us. So we're going to run the poll, and then after the poll, you know, Pastor Wale will take a few more questions. We got you questions on YouTube as well. So we want to take questions from YouTube. Hands are up, and then a number of questions from around the world. So please do answer the poll, and then we'll continue from there. We will just hold the poll for another half a minute, and then we will close the poll. Thank you to everyone that has completed it so far. All right, Taiwo, the polling is ended now. We can go back to answering the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Emi. Thank you, everyone, for completing that as well. Thank you so much. Pastor Wale, you'll be pleased to know that you have a 100% recommendation on the question. Would you recommend this seminar to 100 to other people? And that's coming on 100%. Expectation 96%. I mean, I'm absolutely thrilled with some of these results. So thank you so much, everyone, for taking
Thank you, everyone.
It's amazing. I do this as part of my day job, and when I look at those numbers and I kind of think in my work mode, it's like, oh wow, you've there's this thing about connecting, engaging, and delighting your audience. And I think, if you look at that result, you've absolutely delighted your audience this afternoon, Pastor Wale. So thank you so much. All right.
Thank you.
Now, to some more questions. I think we'll go to the question on YouTube. Oluwatobi, I'm conscious you still got your hands up, so I appreciate that. I'm hopeful that one of the questions on this list will bring that hand down, but if it doesn't, I'll come to you to ask that question just before we close. So the question on YouTube is, if a dependent spouse got sponsored by an employer whilst holding a student dependent visa, how does this affect the student visa of the primary applicant? Do you need to leave the UK to apply?
So this person is a dependent of a student. Am I right?
Yes. So a dependent, yes. So
that's correct.
The spouse of the student.
So this person has a main person who is the student, yes? Okay. And what does he want to know? He or she wants to know.
So if the dependent becomes a skilled worker and gets a skilled worker visa sponsorship, does the student on the student visa have to leave to reapply, or can they switch? Yeah, or does he impact them in any way?
On the basis of the switching rules that we have today, you can switch, because one of the benefits of the skilled workers category is the switching. It's more flexible than what we used to have under what we call tier 1 to 5. I've not come across anything that will prevent you from switching, particularly being a family that you are already in the United Kingdom. The main applicant gets the job, applies, is granted. I don't see anything within the rules preventing the dependents who are already in the United Kingdom from switching as independents, from remaining as independents.
Thank you for that, Pastor Wale. The hand has gone down, so I assume we've covered that question somehow. Okay, so this sounds like a quick one, so I'll drop this one first. With the September 27 clause for the 2 years post-study visa, does this mean that February admissions would not qualify for the post-study visa?
So February admissions, are you saying February next year?
I assume it's February.
Or me?
So where are we now? So I assume it will be the February we're coming into now. So there's a September 27 clause, I assume, for the 2 years post-study visa. Does this mean that February admissions will not qualify for the post-study visa?
I would say they wouldn't.
Okay, great. And then this person says, if you get banned for 10 years on using...
sorry, Tyrell, before you go to the next question, let me just clarify what Pastor Wale said. So if somebody starts studying in the UK in February 2022, is that the question?
No.
Okay, maybe my understanding of that question is, for you to get on the post-study, obviously, one of the qualifications is that you finished your course.
Yeah.
For those who are starting in February, they will finish in the future.
Yeah.
So when they finish, they will qualify.
They will get it. Yeah.
Or when we're talking of being able to meet this particular deadline, you know that if you don't meet this particular deadline here, either you have not finished or whatever, you've not met it. So, but once you are done,
yeah,
you would meet it in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyone who started studying in, say, September 2020 will be in the UK studying on a UK student visa or
Yes.
Tier 4 visa, and will be able to apply for post-study work visa, isn't it?
In the future, yes.
Yes. Yeah.
When they qualify, yes.
Yeah.
At least you must have finished the degree.
Indeed. Indeed.
That's the basis of your qualification.
Exactly.
So that's how I understand it. Yeah. Thanks
exactly.
for that clarification.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I just thought it was good to clarify that.
Yeah, you're becoming an immigration expert.
You know, HR now.
It's because it's an employment, right? You need the visa for employment. So on the employment side of things, we really get into the detail of these different types of visas, because it can put an employer in trouble if you employ the wrong person.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. If you get banned for 10 years on using fake documents, please, after the 10 years, can you apply without any problems?
In principle, yes. In practice, no. So those guys will tell you after serving your 10 years, you are fine. So in principle, you should be. Why? You paid your dues. But in practice, they still try and make it difficult. So the task you have is you package that application in a very tight way. So for example, you will not do what you did in the past again, which is you have to ensure all the documents, whether they are your documents or not. If, you know, some people were just victims of other people's carelessness. Oh, please give me your bank statement, and the thing was fake. So you need to ask for bank statement from people you trust, people who, if they say this is my bank statement, it is their bank statement. So that sort of error will not happen again. Where someone is sponsoring you and your flight ticket is £800, you're staying for 2 weeks, maybe all the food you will eat, all the travel you will do is £500. That's £1,500 in all. The person should have double that in their account, so that they don't look at the account and say, after paying your fare and after feeding you, he can't pay his mortgage. They have very funny ways. Those of you who have seen their refuser before, I'm sure sometimes you just laugh. They will look at and say, look, after paying the mortgage and after feeding their children, they can't pay your ticket and they can't look after it. So you have to make sure that there is more than enough so that they don't have excuses. And then you have incentives to return. If you have landed property, you have shares. If you're a man, you put your marriage certificate to let them know you have a wife. You put all your children's birth certificates. If you're a father of many nations, put all the nations there. Let them know you are returning back to the nations. The reason I say this is because if they want to sort of like, through unconscious bias, say that, oh, this guy's been banned before, they want to say no. Once they see that you have oversupplied, they are left with no choice. And if they decide to be funny and you go for a judicial review, it will take a judge 10 minutes to say, oh, come on. It's so clear to me that it's 10 years ago that you're using to try and punish this guy. This application has much more than enough to show that this person will go back after return. So the answer is yes and no. Yes, if you prepare for them very well. Guess what? I've seen people who were banned for fake documents, who after their ban tried again, and they were banned again for fake documents. And the argument is always, it's not my document. So it's gone beyond, it's not my document. You have to try and make sure that anyone that is helping you is the real deal. And you know, today it's very easy to know what is fake. Oh, everything is interconnected. It's not like everything is online now. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Pastor Wale. All right. So this person says, if I come in as a master's student and before I finish my program, I get married to someone in Nigeria, can I bring him in after the wedding while still studying?
So you come in as a master's student and then you marry before the end of your master's,
Yeah.
can you bring in your dependent? Yeah? The
Yeah.
answer is yes. The answer is yes. That's not a problem. But remember, I'm sure you're not going to do it at the tail end. So when I say tail end, you have maybe 1 more month remaining for study. That's not the time to do it, because then they can actually say it is not a genuine application. So do you know, with immigration, sometimes it's not just about what they put on the paper. There's always the general provision of genuineness test. So if you want to do that, don't waste time at all. The earlier, the better. So the longer you have to study, the better, because there will be no need for anyone to doubt how genuine your application is.
Okay. Thank you.
So the answer is no problem. You can bring your dependent. Yeah.
Thank you for that, sir.
Just a quick thing. Pastor Wale, I've sent you the link to the information about the nursing degree on WhatsApp.
Okay.
And then if you can
Thanks.
put your contact details again,
Yeah,
I want to share them on YouTube. If you can put the contact details of how people can reach you, whether
Okay.
it's email, whether it's a website, whether it's an Instagram account, if you can put that on the chat, and then I can share that to YouTube so that everyone on YouTube can get that as well. We have a number of people on YouTube. And then the nursing degree information, the link to that is in your WhatsApp as well. All right, Taiwo, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Pastor Amy.
Sorry, Pastor Amy. Sorry, Taiwo. The gentleman with the nursing degree, because as I'm talking, I'm checking. If I can have his number also, if I don't get the answer now, so that I will check what you sent, and then we can have that little chat and be sure we've clarified the issue very well.
Okay, we'll send in the email address so that we can follow it over email.
As we said earlier, anyone, you can send an email to hello@kingswoodlondon.org as well, and we'll kind of field your questions from there as well, if that helps. Because that email is very easy to remember. We'll definitely get any questions or queries or comments through to Pastor Wale via that route as well. Okay, please, I have a question regarding the Tier 2 skilled workers link for religious groups or churches. Okay, I think Pastor Amy, you mentioned this. This person is asking whether you can share the link for the religious groups or churches that advertise their vacancies, or was it Pastor Wale that mentioned this earlier? Or someone just wants that link of where they can see the religious groups or churches that advertise their vacancies. And then what type of visa application can a mother of 3 kids apply for besides a visiting visa? They need to have strong family ties in the UK.
So a mother of 3, say somewhere in Lesotho, wanting to come to the UK. is that, I mean, that's the question. Or a mother of 3 who lives here?
No, I think it's a mother of 3 in, I don't know, yeah, Lesotho somewhere. It just says, what type of visa application can a mother of 3 kids apply for besides a visiting visa?
Okay, so with that question, I mean, there's going to be a deeper undertone. So for example, this mother of 3, is she planning to come and work and live? Because you are either visiting, working, or generally living in a place. So this mother of 3 must have an agenda. So from what I can tell, this mother of 3 agenda is not visit. I'm tired of visiting. So I want to come in and stay, isn't it? So a mother of 3 can come as a student and come with dependents. That's one category. A mother of 3, if skilled, can apply for a job and get the job and still be able to bring these 3 kids as dependents. Those are options that are open.
Yeah.
If this mother of 3 is already in the United Kingdom, obviously, and maybe is undocumented at the moment, and is not married to anyone who has a stay here, that person will have to wait till at least one of the children attain the age of 7. And then can apply on the basis that the child, at least one child, is 7. They will grant, and then they will grant the other children. So pretty much, if it's a case of relocating, it has to be as a skilled worker or as a student. There are not too many other routes. Of course, the marriage is there if that's the circumstance of the person. But again, only if that's your circumstance. If not, it has to be an economic route, a business route. Let me also add one thing. One of the things that comes to people's mind when it comes to immigration is, oh, student, it's expensive. you know. But remember, if it's a case of relocating, it's a long-term project for you. Relocation is not just on the week, you know. So you might need to spend that money. You might need to make that initial investment, which is to pay. For example, for a master's, yeah, it might be tough, it might be hard, but then with the 2 years post-study, a lot can happen for you. So see it with that mentality of investment in yourself. And then you pay that price, and then something good comes out of it. But it's easier. You know, in those days, people drop their children here. People go and pick their brother's children. All those things have pretty much been stopped by government. You can't bring somebody else's child. You can't adopt your brother's child if the person is alive and they are well. You know, in fact, some countries have been placed on the list where, for example, you can't adopt except you seek permission from the Home Office. And you beat that. So you want to go and adopt, you just can't do it. You know, one very popular example now is Nigeria. You just can't, Nigeria is not even part of the Hague Convention. If you adopt in Nigeria, it's not recognized here. So before you adopt, then you have to go to your local council. They will do an assessment. You will pay close to £12,000 for this assessment, everything to be done. So things have really changed. So things like coming through student visa should be treasured, not just seen as expensive routes. The expense you pay should be seen as a down payment for something much bigger, because there are no alternatives really, except you are in the family route.
Okay, thank you for that, Pastor Wale. I'm looking at the clock. I've got 3 more questions on the list here, and we don't have any hands raised or any more questions in the chat. So we'll kind of put a pause on it once we've answered this final 3 questions. I don't have that Pakistan question, Pastor Emmy. This person says, I have a question regarding asylum seekers. I'm from Nigeria, northern part to be precise, Kaduna State. When you look at the current situation with insecurities happening in Nigeria, if I want to relocate to the UK, what are the criteria for that? I think this person needs to speak to an immigration, have a consultation.
Yeah. The general principle. Yeah, I can give the general principle. And I appreciate where you're coming from, because this is very close home to me. But one very close relative of mine, I thought he was joking. I spoke to him on the phone and we were laughing, and he said, look, I need to come and claim asylum. And I'm like, I mean, he works in the bank in the nation of Nigeria. And I'm like, oh, you joker, you know, what asylum? You're a top manager. Apparently that week, I didn't know because he didn't tell me on that call. It was later I got to find out. The police came to his bank where he worked. They came with a warrant to arrest him. He had done nothing wrong. He made a phone call to an alleged estate agent. And once he felt the estate agent was dodgy, he didn't go ahead with the deal. He left them. And those guys really were what we call dodgy people. So they had duped some people of some billions. So they came looking for him in the place where he worked. Thank God he wasn't there, so they didn't embarrass him. They found him at home. They locked him up. He didn't do nothing. They checked his account, nothing. But they held on to him and they told him, you know, whilst he was there in the police station, someone had called up to complain about his own brother being killed in police custody. And he had called up and said to them, look, I only asked you to harass him. I didn't say you should kill him. And then the police were saying, but it was an accident. We didn't plan to kill him either. You know, so he was saying to himself, so can I die by accident in this place today? So he felt like he needed to leave. You know, he needed to move his family, he needed to move his wife. And I do appreciate where you're coming from. But from the standpoint of the UK government, they've created the asylum system, not for that kind of scenario, where the security system of a country has failed. No, that's not what asylum is for. It is for political, religious persecution. So you hold a view that the government of your nation cannot stand, and you are being persecuted for it. That's what asylum. You can see the difference between the security situation. So you are of a particular tribe, there are some countries where people from certain tribes are not liked because of certain things that have happened in the past. And so because of that, they are being killed. Let me give another example, which is very bad, but I think there's a solution now. There's some parts of East Africa, if you are an albino or albino, they have an issue with you. So they target them to kill them. That's membership of a particular group being targeted. That's what asylum is for. Or you hold a particular religious view where you are not allowed to express it, you are locked up. You can claim asylum for that. Or on the basis of your sexuality. So you can see the difference between, say, for example, a government that is feeling insecurity and therefore has exposed our citizens to someone being persecuted for religion, for political. So those are the things, the watchword for asylum. So I would say with what you are saying going on in northern Nigeria at the moment, the issue of the Boko Haram and all of that, unfortunately, the UK government is not giving asylum on that basis. I'm sure you do know that when there was the issue in Zimbabwe, when there was the issue in Sierra Leone, it was news. Everybody knew. You didn't need to be a lawyer to know that Sierra Leoneans, Zimbabweans, there was policy of government to give asylum. The UK government has refused to develop a policy around Boko Haram because they believe it's a security challenge for that nation, not persecution claims for the nation. So if there's no persecution, I'm sorry, asylum is not the route to take. You really must be thinking of business migration route to take. I know that's disappointing because I know where you're coming from. I know totally where you're coming from. Can I just also say this? I had someone, he was kidnapped and he came to the UK to visit. How did I know he was actually kidnapped? I checked it on the newspaper. I read the news when he was kidnapped. I read when the police rescued him. So he came and said, oh, I want to claim asylum. I said, why? He said, I was kidnapped for 20 days. I said, what happened? The police rescued me. I said, really, this is an interesting story. What's your name? He gave me his name. I went on Google. All over the newspaper of his country, his name was there, where he was picked from, the number of days he spent in captivity. He said, so I'm going to claim asylum. So I said to him, he won't succeed. He said, why? I said, the evidence is even online that your security agents actually did their job. They rescued you. Not only did they rescue you, look at you now. You are even visiting the UK. You're going to Buckingham Palace. Pastor Emmanuel is laughing. He just burst out laughing. He just started laughing. So I had to explain to him that what you went through was bad, but it's not a basis for asylum. It's just a failure of state security, and it's different.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much, Pastor Wale. Oluwatobi, I've sent you a direct message just to clarify your question. So I'll move on to, actually I'll ask the question, but I don't think it's very clear. So it says, I have admission into a UK university for postgraduate study and I intend to go with my spouse. The school requires that I pay £2,000 before I can be issued a CAS to apply for my visa. I spoke with an agent yesterday and he told me paying only £2,000 out of the £14,000 tuition might have a negative impact on my visa application for myself and my spouse because we intend to apply together. He feels the Home Office would think we should have paid more since we're showing proof of funds in our account. So I don't know what the question is there.
Okay, I think I have an idea of what he might be saying. So Oluwatobi, this is the truth. With regards to the certificate of sponsorship, which you need, because you know that you will not score the points that you require if they don't give it. The truth of the matter is whether you pay a deposit or not, a sponsor can choose if they are satisfied that the funds are there to issue you a certificate of sponsorship. The challenge is, and listen to this, Oluwatobi, the challenge is the sponsor, which is the university, has got room to maneuver on what they want from you. Remember, they are the ones who hold this certificate of sponsorship. They are the ones who issue it. They are the ones who report it. They don't see you. They are the ones whose license is at stake. So some of these schools have a policy whereby even if it's £1,000, they don't mind. You pay a deposit and they issue it. Some of the schools will ask for half of it. it's not a regulation or an immigration rule thing. It is what the sponsor is satisfied with. If the sponsor is satisfied, remember the same sponsor, the moment you come in and they think you're not studying, they have so much power, they just report you. They just report you. And once they report you, your leave is curtailed. And they know it. And they know they have this power. So I would say, rather than just speaking to your agent, and I will not advise you to destroy your relationship with the agent, I think go directly to the school. What is it that you need from me to be able to issue me the cash? If they say it's half, then raise the half. If they say it's less than that, raise whatever. But remember, they would also want to know how you would defray the rest. So it's pretty easy nowadays once the school is satisfied that you're genuine. So if the agent can copy you into emails, not because you distrust him, but I think when it comes to immigration, it should be very personal to you. We're talking about you now and your wife. You're talking about a life decision you've made to settle here. So you got to get it right. So it's not about the rules. So there's no perception of, oh, they will think it's small. No. Once the certificate of sponsorship is given to you, the points will be given to you. And once the school can say, oh, yeah, it's a genuine, they are sure you're a genuine student, that's why they gave it to you in the first place, then you cross that hurdle. So there won't be all this issue of, oh, there's money in their account, but they are paying only half. No. That's a matter for the sponsor. And some sponsors will say, we want half. Some want 3/4. And some people, I've never met any sponsor who said pay all. But they want you to have a plan in place to defray what you owe them. That's it, really. So let your agent be more transparent. Let them copy you into emails. And you know what? The beauty of emails, they don't lie. Once the sponsor commits themselves, you have records. So that backs your position up. You can see that I have this knack for you, backing yourself up with evidence. I think it's important, so that nobody can impeach your position. It's a simple question. What will I require to pay for me to get it? And they'll tell you in an email. You do it and deal.
Thank you so much, Pastor Wale. We have one more question. And I think this one, it might need I know I've pushed a few people to consultation, but I think this one is, the person says, how long does it take for me to apply for British citizenship with a standard partner visa? So I don't know whether they're asking what the track is, what the timeline is, but yeah, that's the question. How long does it take for me to apply for citizenship with a standard partner visa?
So I presume this person is saying, I was granted leave to remain as a partner or as a spouse, and then I spent the required number of years, and then I was granted indefinite leave to remain. Pastor Emi, is that your understanding? Taiwo, is that your understanding? That's my understanding.
Or I think they're asking about timeline here. So if I'm on a leave to remain visa, do I spend 5 years, 7 years, 10 years before?
Well, it depends. So leave to remain, because the person used standard partner. Am I right, Taiwo?
That's what they said. How long does it take for me to apply for British citizenship with a standard partner visa? Okay,
thanks, Pastor Emmanuel. I think I get it better now. So if you're a standard partner, normally you would be in the 5-year route as a partner or as a spouse. In those days, it was 2 years before they came and damaged the immigration rules. That's my opinion. And now it's 5 years. So it's 2.5, that makes it 5 years. Yes? And after 5 years, you will get your indefinite leave to remain. Yes, I think everybody understands that. And once you get your indefinite leave to remain, and you still remain the spouse of a British citizen or a settled person, after you get your indefinite leave, pretty much you can apply for your nationality. So we're talking about standard partner route, maybe 6 years. Taking on board the fact that as a partner, for you to get indefinite leave, you must have spent at least 5 years. And then 5 years indefinite leave, then your nationality. So 6 years, I would say.
Okay, that concludes today's session. I'm delighted to see that we're on time. I mean, it's amazing that we've been able to get through. I don't want to share how many questions we've gotten through this afternoon, but it's been quite a lot. Thank you so much, Pastor Wale, for your time this afternoon. Thank you, everyone, for staying till the end. We hope that you found this session valuable. I've just dropped in the chat window a link to our website, so kingswordlondon.org. You find details of all of our events. This is one of a number of sessions that we've hosted this year. We had a session earlier on in the year around postgraduate study, what it means to come to the UK to study, what it means to be here in the UK, and to consider postgraduate studies. So we had a number of professionals, myself included, a senior lecturer at one of the top universities here in the UK, talking about that. You've listened to the session this afternoon. You've heard Pastor Wale talk extensively. I mean, this is probably the most I've listened to around immigration. And I'm one of those people that will go online, read all the forms and apply myself. So it's been an absolutely amazing session. We've got a number of events to come later on in the year as well. The one I spoke about postgraduate study, we're running something later on in the year. Hopefully, we might be able to bring Pastor Wale back as well to talk again on immigration. And I know that there are a number of things that I should share with you as well, but my screen seems to have disappeared.
Yeah, so Taiwo, while you're doing that, I've just seen another question, Pastor Wale, on YouTube, and I'm feeling bad that I want to add this question to everybody.
No, go ahead.
Well, I just want this person on YouTube, because the person has said, please don't miss my question. So I've just put it in the chat so that the person on YouTube knows that we have. Yeah, so Yemisi, we have seen your question. So Pastor Wale, if you can just spend like a minute.
Is that about spouse switching?
Yes. Yeah, switching. It says, can you switch from a student visa to a spouse visa, or can you apply for a student visa?
The first answer is yes, you can switch, sir.
All right.
And then the second part, and I think it's like vice versa, or can you apply for a student visa when you have a UK spouse because your spouse do not meet the financial requirements? So let me understand that bit. Your spouse has not met what financial requirements?
I think it's like 18,500 that you mentioned earlier. You remember you mentioned, I think you mentioned £18,500. I think that might be what it is.
Oh, I see now. Okay, so if your spouse has not met the financial requirements, can you apply for student visa? Oh, okay. Can you, from being a dependent of a spouse, I just want to make sure I answer this question correctly. Can you, from being a dependent of a spouse, now go and become a student because your spouse has not met the financial requirement? Is that the question?
Sounds like it.
I think that's the question.
That sounds like
I think it's good to go ahead with that.
Yes. Whilst I was able to give you a straight answer for the first one, that I need to look a little closely for you, because I would not want to give you an answer for you to run with, because I know that with switching to becoming students, from student to something else, there could be one or two issues. So that would mean I'm owing two people and two answers. So this person on YouTube, Pastor Emmy and Taiwo, please get their contact. I need the second bit of the question. I want to be absolutely 100%, please. So let me not be presumptuous in my answer to the second part of the question. The first part, yes. Second part, I will not be presumptuous.
Yeah, so if you're on YouTube, please just send us an email, hello@kingswordlondon.org.
Pastor Emmy.
And then we can send that question ahead for you, right? So
yes, I would undertake to respond to you at the very latest by Monday via Pastor. I give you my word, please. Yeah.
Okay. Brilliant. So Taiwo, over to you to help us wrap this up. Thank you so much, Pastor.
All right. I mean, I don't think there's any more that I want to say besides a huge thank you to Pastor Wale for his time this afternoon. I'm very proud that we've hit the session on the hour, right on time. So I don't want to keep anyone waiting anymore. Thank you so much to everyone on Zoom. You're welcome to just literally drop off the call now, and then we can stop the live stream, I believe, on YouTube as well. Thank you so much, everybody, for your time this afternoon. It's been an amazing session. Thank you, Pastor Emmy, for Yeah, but
Thank you.
hostess with the mostess this
Thank
afternoon.
you, Pastor Emmy, for inviting us.
No, it was a pleasure to have you, Pastor Wale. It's so good. And
You're
I'm sure
welcome.
everyone has had such a great time. So we look forward to doing more of this in the future, right?
No worries. I'll get back to you on those two questions. The student nurse and the switching thing. Okay, sir.
And hopefully we should be able to get the names of the people that asked that question.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least I think the nursing one, I think there seems to be a name, but the
Yeah,
last
I
one
think,
was,
yeah.
YouTube,
So the
I'm not
nursery
sure.
question and this one about switching from spousal to student, just send an email to hello@kingswelllondon.org and we'll make sure your question gets answered, right? All right, then. Thank you so much,
very much.
everyone.
Okay, then.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.